Warning: the following audio may contain coarse language, as well as discussion of material that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Also, we may spoil just about anything that pops into our heads. We hope you enjoy. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Someone Wrote This, the show where we read crap. My name is William, and as always, I am joined by my good friend Tom.
Hello, William.
Hello, Tom, and joining us once again is Nick.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Nick.
Fuck you!
Nick's my real friend.
Ah, son of a bitch. All right, and making his premiere on our show, a very handsome gentleman and a scholar. He enjoys lots of margaritas, especially after 12 o'clock, and he's an especially huge fan of Rolling in the Deep, not just the song, but also in the metaphorical deep, and you can just take whatever comes to your mind and just run with it. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan.
I didn't know what any of that meant.
I'm so confused right now.
Look,
But hello, distinguished gentlemen.
I just came up with it off the top of my head,
Hello.
so fuck. And yes, there are two Ryans on this
I enjoy
show.
pina coladas and getting lost in the...
I enjoy getting laid.
I mean,
Good for you.
Anyway, so this story
Whoa,
was
what?
this story was a suggestion by Tom. This is Celebrian. All I know about this is that this is a Lord of the Rings fan fiction.
A little background on how I ran across it. We're going to blame TV tropes. They're so bad it's good wiki page
goody.
under the fan fiction tab. This came fairly recommended as kind of almost one of those initiation into the MST3K writings again. Kind of like Eye of Argon was. This is another one of those. Throw this at the newbies and let them suffer as hard as humanly possible.
So we're off to so we're on very safe ground here, is what you're saying.
I can't promise anything.
Well, to be fair, given some of the stuff
From here on out, here be dragons.
Well, given some of the stuff that we've read, truly we should expect the unexpected. Parents getting murdered out in space because people can't beam shit. Blood whistles.
Blood was none other than ice.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Alrighty, so, as is typical, if we've got a new guy on the show, he's the one who kicks it off. So, Ryan, why don't you start off the story of Celebrian?
okay. Celebrian.
Is that what we're really going to go with it? That's the pronunciation for the night, huh?
Celebrian, yeah.
Is that does anyone an authority on this?
Wait, no, I've got no pronunciation guy.
I don't
Okay.
have one either.
Then
This is
I'll go
completely
with-
original.
I'll go with Celebrian because that's what makes sense in my head.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Alright, buckle up.
Celebrian stood before the Goblin King, head bowed. Her long silver locks hid her face. Silent tears streamed down dirty cheeks.
Wait, so Celebrian is a woman?
Maybe it's Celebrian, like Nick said?
Is it Celebrian?
It would make a little more sense.
Yeah, I like Celebrian, personally.
It just sounds. It sounds right for us.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay. I already read that. The orcs had not mistreated her. Woe to any orc who spoiled the king's pleasure toy. But okay, so we're off to a great start here.
We're 2 lines in. Jesus.
Yes. Second line, the third sentence, we've already come across the word pleasure toy. And it is one word because it's hyphenated. And looking on, that seems to be a theme.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go.
But But the hem of her traveling dress was wet and muddied by the long walk through waterlogged tunnels. Her hair was matted and her arms were muddied, bruised and cut from many a tumble in the dark. Okay, so twice the word muddy. Okay.
Many a tumble.
Yeah, many a
Muddy.
I like it. It's a very organic prose style. I like it. None of that mattered compared to the fate that awaited her at the hands of the so-called king. "What is this?" said the Goblin King. The lift of his loincloth, caused by the stiffening of his cock, demonstrated full well that the question was moot.
Oh no. That kind of story.
I didn't see that part. Okay.
Why, SpongeBob?
Okay. Okay, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. "An elf bitch, your highness, brought from the cave at the top of the pass. We snatched her while she slept." "Was she alone?" asked the king. His yellow, watery eyes gazed at his captive. Those eyes displayed a hint of fear of elf warriors, but far more they glowed with lust. Elves would stop at nothing to reclaim a lost woman to the orcs. As well they should, thought the king, contemplating what lay in store for this fine specimen of elven womanhood, breaking her to his needs.
What? Did you do that on purpose?
Yes, I did.
Uh,
Oh no! I mean, it was completely natural.
Freudian slip there.
Yes. I mean, it's not too high a leap considering we already had Pleasure Toy and Elf Bitch.
And the stiffening of a Goblin King cock.
From the lift of his loincloth.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, we're gonna get there. Okay.
Yeah.
Breaking her to his needs would be exquisite. "No, your highness, but they have not pursued us. Guards are posted. We will know if they come." Celebrian could follow their words, for the orcs were a mixed lot of big Oruks and little woods goblins that used the Western tongue to communicate.
The Westron tongue to communicate?
Western. Okay, this is really small print.
Yeah. Westron.
Westron, yep, they're going in the grid.
Westron tongue to communicate. Her heart could not help leap with the reminder that her husband Elrond would come in search of her, and no force of orcs could stay her rescue. What could stay her rescue? Is that like a little archaic flourish, or
I think it's to like stop her rescue.
right, like stay your hand?
Yeah,
I guess.
I think who the author is attempting to channel Tolkien a little bit here.
Yes, same with
Right.
many a tumble.
Many tumbles and elf talk.
But hold up, Celebrian, this bitch is Elrond's wife?
I guess.
We're going
It's
right
like
for
this is a real character? Like,
I think.
It's
I
canon.
think
You heard it
this,
here first.
Yeah, I think this is actually
a canon character?
Yeah,
Oh, damn.
we're gonna canon, and I'm sure that defilement will come in
Oh,
more ways than one.
But
Oh, damn
Oh
it.
my god. Okay. Okay. And no forks of orcs could stay her rescue. She had only to outlast her captors for a little while. The goblin stroked the stubble on his chin with a great clawed hand. He idly picked the nostril of his large pig nose and twitched his pig ears so that tufts of hair in the ears twitched. Wait, so that the tufts of hair in the ears twitched.
Yes.
Twitched his. Okay.
Yes, there's more
He
than one
twitched
twitch
his
going
pig
on.
ears so the tufts of hair in the ears. Okay,
Mhm.
that's. I'll allow it. Tusk teeth protrude upward from his underslung jaw. He smiled. He knew what she was thinking, and he knew that, valor or not, it would take great effort for elves to track them through the maze of tunnels. They had not idly brought her through water-filled tunnels. Tracking was near impossible. The elves would come, but not for a long time. That's what you got to tell yourself, I think. He would likely be gone before they arrived. But if not, well, some pleasures were worth the risk. Strip her, he said at last.
Oh, God. All right.
Celebrian's head jerked up. Her hair fell away from...
What was that?
What? So you want to switch off there?
Yeah, switch off from...
Yeah,
yes.
sounds like a good spot.
Switch off the
Keep it
stripping
around.
to... Switch off the stripping to Nick.
Oh dear. Okay.
Try. I figure we could probably keep it around like mildly lengthy paragraph
Yeah.
length
Why
between
not?
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Nick, stripper.
Celebrian's head jerked up. Her hair fell away from her face, revealing violet eyes under silver eyebrows, a fine small
The
nose,
sliver eyebrows.
and under sliver eyebrows,
Really thin, finely plucked.
a fine small nose, and a tiny delicate mouth. Oh dear. The Goblin King thought of what that mouth would soon be willing to engulf.
Oh, God. Oh.
With a final pulse, his cock stiffened to its full 1 foot length.
It's like a fucking arm.
Only a foot?
But he's a goblin, so I think this
It's a
is actually
goblin arm.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
goblin.
it's
Okay.
inadequate. I don't know.
I guess that's pretty big for like a little Earl King guy.
The loincloth slipped to the side, revealing his gnarled, twisted gray member.
Yes,
Oh,
we
what
finally got one.
interchanging member
We
now.
finally got the word member. It's about time. 6 episodes of this, we finally
Oh
got the
my
word
God.
member in a fanfic.
Black moles of varying size and height dotted his 2-inch wide shaft, but the glans was smooth, bulbous, and more than 3 inches across. Pulsing veins snaked across the shaft.
Well, now we know what it looks like.
Yeah, we can draw like a scale model.
I got a ruler in the other room if you need a
No, that
visual.
won't be necessary.
Calculate the area of the cone.
Ryan, you look dumbfounded.
The volume of a cylinder from those dimensions.
That's amazing. Somebody thought that. I'm not amazed that somebody wrote that. I'm amazed that somebody thought that.
Celebrian gasped and dropped her head again. Her hair fell back across her face, but she could not help dart a glance back at the hideous member.
What is going on over there?
Honoring the
Who's crackling?
Ooh. I think it's you.
Me? Whatever. It's fine.
Yep, there you go wigging out again.
Huh, whatever. Just keep going.
Honoring the king's command, the 2 orcs who had brought her from the cave stepped to her side, with movements more deft than seemed possible for such brutes. They slit the sleeves and shoulder of her dress, so that it fell to her waist, caught by her girdle. More flicks of their knives, and the girdle and dress fell to her feet. She-
Sorry. Poor Ryan's face
I'm-
over.
Maybe they meant corset? Like, are they sure they meant girdle? Like, that's what gets them off? They just want to really just mess with those, shrink those ribs.
Oh,
and,
God,
and
anyway.
cause respiration issues. She was now clad only in her soft buckskin boots. Her lithe, supple form swayed under the cruel gaze of the goblin. The king idly stroked the head of his cock.
Idly.
Idly.
Like he just kind of like didn't even realize he was doing it. Like
So
when
he
you
was
look at
thinking-
your fingernails.
He was thinking about like things on his to-do list. I don't know.
It's like, oh, I gotta fuck the elf lady, and I have to do some laundry. Then I have to look into that penis transplant thing that I heard about.
I have to get a new loincloth.
In response, Celebrian trembled in fear and disgust, sending sweet tremors through her firm, apple-sized breasts. Breasts graced by perfect, delicate lavender nipples.
Oh my god.
Circulation
They get a
issue?
fragrant
I
aroma.
think she's almost dead. I think
Yeah,
Celebrian needs to go to the hospital.
Uh,
she needs some circulation issue, like assistance. That's not good.
oh my
It was
gosh.
probably the girdle was cutting off circulation.
Yeah, that's why they were lavender.
Oh,
They actually
jeez.
color matched her fingernails.
So the king is actually being kind. He knew that she was having like some trouble breathing, so he was like, "Okay, just like, there's no need for that up in here.
Yeah.
We accept you for who you are."
That is solid. I like that.
Free the tatas.
Yes.
Okay, anyone want to take over, please?
I'll do it, yeah. The king gripped his shaft still harder. His eyes turned from her quivering breasts to the soft silver down that was not thick enough to hide her lavender labia.
Oh God!
Okay, that's just that is textbook alliteration. That will be in the books one day.
He smiled.
I want to see that as an example in an English someday.
Oh man, if anybody takes a creative writing class in the future, please find a way to work in the line lavender labia, please. And see just what kind of a reaction you get.
It sounds like a band name.
The lavender labia? It sounds like a punk band, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
he smiled.
Well,
Clean her. Buckets and rags were brought. The two orcs gingerly washed their charge. Wait, what? Okay. The two orcs.
they're delicate.
Yeah, the two orcs gingerly washed their charge, trembling at the touch of Celebrian's smooth skin, yet also in fear that too familiar a touch would enrage their king. They stood at her boots, washed the pillars of her thighs, the gentle curves of her hips, and the swell of her belly. Oh, God. They caressed her small...
Pillars of her thighs.
Yes, they caressed her small, sweet breasts with their wash rags, and finished with a careful wipe of her face. Through it all, Celebrian stood as still as possible. She feared that
And
Oh, God. She feared that any further quiver on her part, any further tremble of her breast might rouse the
Did
king
anybody
to
hear any of
action.
that?
no, Will just totally flaked out on that.
Oh, really? Oh, God damn it. All right, I'll say it again. Through it all, Celebrian stood as still as possible. Can you guys hear me just fine?
We
Now
can.
we
now.
can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I have no
Your
idea.
Wi-Fi sucks.
Yeah, I have no idea why on earth that's happening. She feared that any further quiver on her part, any further tremble of her breast might rouse the king to action. She had to delay. She had to survive until Elrond arrived. Clothe her. Wait. Okay. Sure. Why not? Let's see. A garment was brought. They forced one leg up, then the other. Looking down through her dangling hair, she could not tell what they were dressing her in, only that it was black, tiny, and her legs were through two straps. Okay.
Most
And
confusing
we wore
garment
black
ever.
lipstick and black nails and a black skirt.
With black fishnets.
I really love a good, solid paragraph devoted to telling us what the person is wearing.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'll read another couple of lines, then Tom, you can take over. The orcs
Alright.
raised the garment up. She had expected coarse orc cloth, but it was smooth, fine silk. The orcs reached her pubes.
Hey, I have never read such a good sentence in the English language before.
Oh, God. Oh, it's magic. The orcs reached her pubes. It's magic.
If this were like a magazine, you know how like when you're reading an article, they'll like extract a quote and put it in like
Yeah,
the
like-
center
Yeah, like
in big
extra
font.
big, yeah.
That's a highlight right there.
Yes.
The orcs reach her
You should-
pubes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She felt the
Read more on page 15.
She felt the cloth bite into her slit and gasped. She could not keep her eyes from darting to the Goblin King. The king's gaze danced from her eyes to her breasts and back. He leered and passed his lumpy tongue over his tusks and across his thick lips. She likes that, he said with a laugh. Oh, yes, because if anybody knows what women want, it's fucking this guy. Anyway, Tom, take over, please.
Oh, God. You're going to leave me with this sentence here. Pointing to the orcs holding the garment at her hips, he said, "Fix the straps on her twat."
Member and twat. The two finest alternative names for genitalia.
Oh, God.
Sounds like two shock jock radio hosts.
Honestly, it
Member
kind
and twat.
honestly, it kind of
Every
does.
morning at 8.
Member and the twat
That's
on K102.7.
Are you sure this is not the lead singer and bassist for the Lavender Labia?
I was wondering, are her pubes lavender too?
do the
Some- you know,
No,
something-
they were. I think they were silvery to match
Silvery,
the,
yes.
the thin eyes.
Yes. Or
Oh,
slivery.
good. Okay.
Yeah, the the sliver of eyebrow.
Oh my God.
Celebrate, or was it? Celebrating felt rough orc fingers and claws slide along the silk over her pubes. They brought.
What is
They
what is
brushed
with,
her
what,
labia.
what is with all the pubes?
I don't know, but it's gonna be short hairs all over the cave.
Hey, he's accepting. All bodies have hair. It's 2018.
Maybe she's French.
Anyway,
She
Céline
trembled
Dion.
violently at the touch. This time she forced her eyes down, but this only caused her to watch her bouncing breasts and only reminded her further of the king's pleasure in her torment. The orc separating the cloth into two straps and set them on either side of her labia. It's the most confusing garment ever.
it
Like,
is.
Just draw a picture.
They're just shot in the dark. I don't think this guy went to fashion school.
You know,
Call it a
I'd like
hunch.
to
Yeah.
see somebody actually attempt some artwork on this one to figure this one out.
Yeah. Put some visual aids in with your smut next time, sir.
This isn't the blood whistle. We can't figure this out.
See figure 2A.
Now do the rest, said the king. The two orcs continued to work the garment upward. How far have they gone so far?
I don't know.
They've rammed it into her crotch about 3 times so far. There was little to it, just a pair of straps that passed from shoulder to her pubes, joined by a horizontal band front and back.
Take a drink every time the word pubes is said during the course of this story.
I have been. This mug was full when we started.
Oh, goody.
Oh my god.
The orcs left the straps passing on either side of her breasts so that they pushed her flesh into a tight mound. Sounds really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The king regarded the elf bitch before him, naked except for the black silk that shaped her breasts and highlighted her labia. The
Wait,
orc-
but wasn't she clothed?
No, they stripped her and put
Oh,
her in
that's-
apparently one of those. As far as I could tell, they put her in a string bikini.
Fair enough. Okay, whatever.
One of those slingshot ones.
Yeah.
To the orc on her left, the king made a twisting motion with his clawed hand. The orc twisted the horizontal band at Celebrian's back, tightening the straps and fixed it with some sort of clasp. The action drew her breasts together and pushed against her genitals so that her labia protruded half an inch. Jesus Christ.
Again with the random measurements.
That seems excessive.
Uh,
Is this guy all right?
Ryan just looks so confused. Oh,
Is this
God.
is the author okay? I'm a little concerned. Like,
I don't know. It's
it's okay if you are patient and not a creep, you will eventually get a woman to find you tolerable. I'm confident.
And that's also into extreme camel toe.
Yes.
oh my god. Excellent, said the king. Celebrain clenched her jaw at the indignity. She forced her mind to visualize her husband coming to rescue her, because we can't visualize what's happening to her. She had to endure. She could outlast this beast. He could degrade her with this scrap of clothing. He could even force himself on her, but he would not have her soul.
What? I.
She left it in a jar back where they kidnapped her.
I
The king waved
guess?
the two. Don't ask questions, Will, that you don't really want answers to. The king waved the two orcs away. He sat on his throne, running a hand up and down his shaft, round the prominent lip of his glands. His cock was so hard that the taut skin of his glands dully reflected the torchlight. Every lump and mole on his shaft stood clearly defined.
Man, this is some anatomy and physiology
Okay.
descriptions right here.
I'm not a urologist, but I don't think the glands usually has a lip on it.
I'm not even sure it's supposed to be external.
So you think he's sounding?
Oh God. I'm sorry.
It's
I can't
maybe-
picture this. I need to know about his bass difference. I need to know.
Oh, God.
Maybe it's prolapsed.
Oh.
Oh. He had a really bad kidney stone from all the fucking goblin food.
Anyway, read a couple more lines and then Ryan can take
Yeah,
over.
I'm going to take it down to the next quote. Celebrain's body began to ache with the tension of the holding perfectly still. What was this brute up to? Her heart filled with hope at the delay, yet she knew it could not last.
What was he up
She
to?
is tired.
What was he up to? What has he been
about a-
doing for the past 5 minutes?
Well, he's up to about a foot. We know that.
Well, he's been stroking his dick idly. We know this.
She is tired, said the king. Bring her a stool.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm just gonna let it sit in the moment for a second. Okay. A stool was placed behind her, and she was pushed onto it. She could not help feel some relief at sitting, but it lasted only a few moments before the king waved at her legs, and an orc spread her legs apart, so that the king had a clear view of her womanhood.
I can just imagine that this guy is looking at her legs, just waving hi.
Exactly.
God. Maybe they waved. Maybe it waved back.
It's like, hi, I didn't. Yeah. Have we met? No matter, she could endure this too. She is thirsty. Bring her a drink. Behind her, she heard an orc uncork flasks and several liquids being poured. Hobnailed footsteps approached, and an orc hand reached. I'm gonna edit that tense there.
No.
Reached out from behind her with a leather wineskin in his hand. Drink, said the king, gesturing with his hands. Oh, he wasn't gesturing with his cock for once.
Well, he had to let
Drink.
go of it to gesture.
Prost. Okay. Something about his leer told her not to take the drink.
Oh,
She
really?
moved- I don't know.
think
I've been
you
getting
should
good
take
vibes
a
so
drink
far.
that you didn't see made from a guy that you don't even know.
Who's
You don't even
fast?
know in that just like
Who's fascinated
that
with
just
your
had you
pubes?
Wait.
She wondered casually.
Okay, if he's just gonna like, if he's gonna have them spread her legs like that, why did he like put the clothes back on?
I don't know.
Wait,
Maybe.
does
Well,
she even,
I think Nick got it right. She's got a camel toe fetish.
Mm-hmm.
or are they like crotchless chaps or something? Like, this is a lot of steps.
Maybe it's like one of those like the bondage rope things.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
Maybe,
Fair enough, I guess.
or like a swing. Okay,
Right, we moved into Caligula.
I can't wait for the horse chapter.
Oh.
Okay, where did
So
I?
glad you waited until I took a drink to say that. That almost went
She,
over my desk.
you're right. She moved to bat it away.
She moved to. Fuck, I lost it. It's also what he said.
Not the guy. Dang it! Fuck you.
It's something about his leer is the first sentence.
Yeah.
She moved to bat it away, but the orc stepped aside. A second orc held her arms to her side, while the first orc pried her mouth open and poured the flask down her throat. The oily, thick liquid burned and gagged her. It smelled of rancid sex and sweat, tasted of strong liquor, and a hint of salt.
God damn it, there's cum in the drink.
New from Calvin Klein.
Orc cum.
Be bold.
I swear to God, if this person has written out the word orcgasm, I'm
You know you'll get all the ladies when you're wearing Ode to Pube.
ah. Ah.
Anyway.
When they, was it when the tester lady sprays it at you? And, oh, it's in my mouth.
You walk past her and you're like, not in the face, please.
In the perfume department.
Spray anywhere but not my hair.
The pearl necklaces are 2 aisles over.
Oh my God. Okay. It smelled of with a hint of salt. They emptied the wineskin in short bursts, holding her mouth closed between drafts. I think that's drafts.
Droughts.
Droughts?
Draughts.
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 Yeah.
Draughts. Yeah, what? Fuck English. So that she was forced to drink every drop. She felt the heat of the liquid burn down her throat and into her stomach. She felt the back of her throat close shut in a gag reflex, then slowly open. The heat in her stomach moved to her nipples and clit.
Damn.
Like, I've heard of firehole, but this is a little... Some liberties have been taken here, I think. To her horror, her nipples stood small and proud. She could not see her clit, but she could feel the swell in her loins. Her labia protrude even farther, and she knew that her clit, too, was erect and proud, in its soft fold of lavender flesh.
How big is this woman's labia?
Can I just say, I did not think this is how my night would go.
If it was a man who was being seduced by the Goblin King, Orc King, would it be better?
I mean, there wouldn't be nearly as many opportunities to describe her purple snatch, but
I swear to God, you really need to take a shot every time the word lavender is used at this point.
Oh man.
lavender, labia, member, I think is getting up there too with this point. Pubes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's pubes.
All right.
Okay. Where'd I leave off?
Oh
I
man.
know my lavender flesh. Okay. The king watched the liquid take its course with unmasked pleasure. His cock bobbed before
Bloop, 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 bloop.
it's like he's fishing.
Exactly.
Um, his fists clenched at his side. His tongue danced over his meaty lips and yellowed tusks, while his nostrils flared and his ears twitched with pleasure. I think he's having a stroke. Like, these are too many autonomic responses, I think.
Nick,
Yeah, they were jaundiced because of those tusks.
Yeah.
Like
I think he just drinks a lot of coffee.
yeah. Nick,
Or
do you
maybe
want
he
to take
smokes.
over?
Sure. Not long now, whispered the king. He knew that the elf bitch was lost in the pulse of her body and was no longer paying attention to him. A drop of clear liquid seeped from the tip of his cock and fell to the floor. How long Celebrian remained lost in contemplation of her awakening body, she could never remember. It might have been seconds or hours. Her head had grown foggy, and her field of vision shrunk to no more than the king.
Not a proper fanfic unless somebody loses track of time.
Just ask
Yeah.
Jim Thighs.
As she smiled at the warmth,
Yeah, right.
she smiled at the warmth in her loins and raised a hand to flick a nipple.
Instead of whack-a-mole,
cheating.
it's flick a nipple.
Look what I have. Bing.
And that's
And
like such
7
an...
seconds later, it became erect.
No, they're already like
Yeah,
fully
they're
erect.
already- they're
they
already-
went
yeah.
they went into full detail.
Yeah.
They've shattered,
Yeah.
Cut glass
like a
baby.
rose dipped in liquid nitrogen.
Oh man.
That was poetic.
But no, it was not.
No, it was not.
While rubbing her nipple between thumb and forefinger. Not her thumb and forefinger, just thumb and forefinger. She brushed her hair behind her ears with the other. The hall seemed dark to her, except for the king on his throne.
Really? Could she only see the king? Please tell me again.
Oddly, her gaze traveled over his yellow eyes. Dude, he has jaundice. Don't die.
Okay, every time the author writes the word idly, he gets a wet willy. 1 for 1. This must be punished.
Okay, so traveled over his yellow eyes above the pig nose and tusk, no
As
longer
opposed to below
noticing
it?
no longer noticing the bold leer. It moved down his bare, hairy chest and fixed on his great cock. His great, long, magnificent cock.
First.
So unlike the small, smooth one of her husband. Yo, they hating on Elrond. They giving him a micro penis.
Oh my god, I thought his great long magnificent cock was an ad lib. That's what I get for looking away from the script.
Oh, that was the sentence.
That was
Somebody
I
put
honestly
that
thought
into a
it
word
was too.
processor.
And then they size shamed Elrond. Yo.
Oh man. Oh man. Tom, what the fuck are you having us read?
Don't know. I didn't read this far.
Okay, well, her hand moved from her hair to her clit. She slowly rubbed both nipple and clitoris, feeling the wet in her pussy and smelling her scent. All the while, she stared at the cock in front of her. Her vision shrank further, so that she could see was the great gray shaft and smooth head.
You know, at one point when we discussed doing this kind of a podcast, you mentioned you would be up for these kind of bad fan fiction. So this
No,
is
no,
your
no.
own damn
This is
for
this
letting
is
this happen.
this is where the anonymity clause is definitely in effect. Dear God.
Yeah.
My name is actually Robert.
See, my name is actually Celebrian.
And my name is Jim Thighs.
I'm Celebrian, and this is my story.
Actually, no. If we're deciding new names, I get to be Michael Hunt.
I work with a guy that's got that name. Actually,
So much for anonymity.
Yo, they're gonna track you.
Sorry, Mike.
there was one. I do actually work with a guy. Well, I don't work with a Michael Hunt, but I do work with a guy that's named Kerry Hunt, and I had to write, everybody's.
Oh,
name
that's a
down on
spoonerism
thing.
waiting to happen.
Oh yeah, it almost happened for like the sign-in sheet for the daily logs.
Carrie Hunt. Oh my God.
Okay, so
We were staring at the dick, yes.
okay, smooth head, right. Okay. Somewhere in the hair from which it sprouted, she knew there must be a pair of balls.
He's got a forest down there or something.
Well, he
So
is.
if this
the
is
guy.
Landscape that thing. Jesus.
Okay, so if this is like smut,
This is.
I think that's
It took us 6
then-
episodes to get to smut. Yes.
why has the author dedicated so much time into how repulsive and hideous the Elf King is? And how like ugly his cock is, and how maybe he has balls. I don't know. I can't see him. That seems like it might be alienating to the few people that already haven't been turned off.
maybe it's one of those things where you put in the really bad at the first, so that you kind
So they
of
can
drive
get used to
away
it,
the people who shouldn't be reading this.
It's like
No,
the it's like the,
It's
it's like the
Which
first
is
3 minutes.
everybody.
It's like the first 3 minutes of Elfin Lead.
right. Oh,
No, he's just
it's
really
not
catering.
smut, it's art.
He's really catering to the people with the glands fetish, like that. The people who just get off about knowing every single detail about that glands. They don't
Why
care
did he
about
say
the balls.
Glands is not a word I would use more than once in a
Outs-
lifetime, not like even in erotica.
Outside of a medical textbook, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so there must be a pair of balls. Would they match the size of the foot-long rod before her? She casually wondered. Not idly, but
She
casually.
casually wondered.
actually.
Oh my
They didn't want to
god.
commit just yet, so they're just casually. Yeah, casually. wondering.
Oh my god.
She worked her nipple and clit.
Wait, no, how
Dull
many times
pleasure
has
rolled in
how many
waves
times has
of
this fucking author said something about the nipple and the clit and her rubbing it?
3 at least
I mean,
that I
three
can still see
twice
on the
2
screen.
paragraphs.
Nah.
Yeah. A dull pleasure rolled in waves across her body. It had been a millennia since she last played this way with herself. Why? Are elves just like anti-masturbation, apparently?
They're very repressed.
They eat too many graham crackers.
Perhaps it had been too long, because she could not bring herself to climax. A pout graced her small mouth at the frustrated desire. Unnoticed by Celebrian, the king stared at his elf bitch in high heat. His balls ached for release. More clear drops dripped on the floor.
Oh man.
Well, that answers that question. Apparently, he
He
does
does
have
have
balls.
He does have balls, yes. Do you need me to
But
take
how big
over?
are they? This is a loose thread.
Are we taking bets?
Okay, she's gonna compare them to some sort of like fruit.
Probably, yeah.
All right, so we're going anywhere from grapes to grapefruit.
Sure, why not? Okay. Alrighty. Do you want me to go on, Nick?
Go for it.
Alright.
Can you go on?
We'll find out. These elf whores just need a little push to awaken, he said. He jiggled his...
Still-
Oh, damn it!
I don't care what else we read. Nothing's gonna compare to that sentence.
He he jiggled his cock, drawing Celebrian's attention to it. She noticed the liquid dripping from its tip and involuntarily swallowed. Yet her throat balked at the attempt. The muscles were still loose from the draught. The cock called her.
I take it back.
This is now the best sentence.
Uh, does,
I think we're on number 3.
does the cock have a cell phone? Does he fucking?
You used
No,
to
it's like
call
one of the-
me on the cock phone.
It's like one of those big Swiss trumpets.
So stroke me idly.
Celebrate.
So stroke me idly. What would it taste like? What would it feel like in her mouth? She had never taken Elrond into her mouth. This was not the elvish way, despite the vulgar name for fellatio, the elvish art.
That's some expanded universe building right there.
Yeah, apparently the entire elven race is just adverse to oral.
I guess.
Yes.
She fell to her knees. The great cock loomed before her, twisted and gnarled with its warts, bumps, and pulsing. Except
It's the great cock, Charlie Brown!
it comes out of the ball patch. Oh. Bumps and pulsing veins, except for the taut, smooth knob. It was
Basically, it looks like the patty that SpongeBob used to poison the health inspector with.
basically. It was beautiful. You've spent so much time explaining how ugly it is.
God,
Rough and smooth, round and long. Oh, so
Wait,
long.
you can't be rough and smooth at the same time. It doesn't work like that.
No, she felt a pang in her loins, a desire to bury the rod in her loins. But the
Lloyd's!
But the curiosity of her mouth won out. She rocked forward and extended her tongue to catch the tip of the gland. Stop calling it... She caught a drop of liquid and tasted a not unpleasant saltiness.
That's what was in the drink.
No one touches the king without permission. The voice came as... Oh, now we're talking about permission. Okay. The voice came as if from a distance, yet she recognized it as the king's voice, the owner of this magnificent cock.
This great, long, magnificent cock.
She ignored it and reached a hand for the bulb. No,
You turning out the light?
No, thundered the voice, not without permission. She withdrew the hand halfway, yet still poised, fingers open. She ached to feel it against her, in her mouth, in her twat. Ask, and you may touch. Her mind was still clouded by the draught. Ask? Ask for what? She wondered. Oh, to touch it. Did you not hear? Did you not hear him say no one touches the king without permission?
All this talk about consent while she is currently being roofied.
Yeah, more or less. May I touch it? She asked with a look of wonder and anticipation on her delicate face. Who asks? Celebrian. Celebrian asks to touch it. Touch what, little
Apparent-
bitch?
He gets off on third person.
This, by the way, I think isn't this her like second line of dialogue in the whole story?
Probably, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Touch it. Touch
Okay.
your cock. Saying the word cock for the first time in all the ages of her long life. Man, you really need to get out more. Celebrian wants to touch the king's cock? Yes. And what does that make her? Make her? Why a whore? Yes! There's no comma in there. Why a whore? Yes, she thought, finding a strange pleasure in the thought. Celebrian is a whore. I am... I am Celebrian.
Really-
I am a whore. She smiles.
This story is really showing all of its cards, isn't it?
I'm Celebrian. Hear me, whore.
Why a whore? Well, because elf bitch.
A whore is a whore, no matter how small.
Uh,
How
A
old or
whore is a
young,
whore. Of course,
short
of
or
course.
tall.
unless, of course, that whore is the famous Celebrian. Oh man, it sounds like one of the.
Mr. Ed reference there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kids are sure to get that.
It's well, Ryan mentioned
Real hip to the times.
Ryan mentioned Caligula earlier, and that's in the Cinema Snobs review of Caligula. But anyway, like these I am Celebrian, I am a whore thing sounds like one of those really weird, like self-help, like self-motivation tapes. Like, I am Celebrian, I'm a whore, I can do this job, stuff like that.
Is this the whole hippie "I love you" thing going on again?
I guess I
Just
don't know.
put your fingers on your nipple and just say, "Why a whore?"
You see, the thing is, it does exist. Like, this is like straight out of like a hypno quasi fetish. Like,
Yeah. The king's hand grabbed her wrists, but gently so as not to break her mood. Ask properly. Ask if you mean it, elf bitch, he said, barely able to contain his own anticipation. She turned her tunnel vision to his face. The great pig nose, fat lips, and tusk now seemed somehow attractive in a raw animal way.
she wants to
Good.
fuck a
Turned
pig.
It's turned into Beauty and the Beast.
Cock as old as time. Thick as it can
There goes
be.
the elf king with his cock like always.
No
His liver
one's
failing from the beer.
no one's cock's like the king. Cock's as thick as the king. No one's got as many warts on it like the king.
Yes, give me your wart encrusted fucking speckly shaft.
Uh,
Oh,
Staring into his yellowed eyes, she said, Celebrian the whore wants to touch your cock. She wants to put it in her mouth. Please? My God. She smiled, a sweet little smile. It took his complete will to keep from slamming her head onto his shaft, but he stilled himself. It was much better if she did it herself. Much better now and much better later. She was drugged, but she was not yet broken. By all means, cunt, said the king. Thank you,
Oh, that
my
escalated
king.
quickly.
Thank you, my king, she said politely. Okay, I can't read anymore, Tom. You gotta take this over, for fuck's sake.
She turned her vision back to the cock. It was all she saw. It filled her mind. Celebrian likes the big cock with his shiny head and bumpy shaft. Such a beautiful cock. So big and strong.
Jesus Christ.
This is what the author says to himself in the mirror every morning. This is expert level projection.
Do you think that he just has, like, really, really bad syphilis, and this is the only
He's
way
got-
he could
he's-
think to make his cock actually, like, interesting?
He's got a weird cock.
It's almost like leprous at this point. Maybe bits of it are falling off, and that's why you can see the glands.
Like what? I don't want to hear any more about the barnacle cock. I don't want to hear any more about the elf pubes.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Or the slippery pre-cum that somebody is going to crack their head open on the dungeon floor once they
Yes,
step
straight
over
up.
it.
It's like a pond at this point.
Someone needs to put like a wet floor sign up. This is hazardous. Someone is going to call OSHA.
Oh man, fucking A.
The king shuddered at the words. Never had an elf bitch taken the magic potion so well before. She grabbed the head of his cock with one hand. The heat surprised and pleased her. She ran her fingers over its smooth surface and around its lip. It's not smooth. Oh my, I can't. She cupped the glands in one hand.
Nick, you're taking such a big drink.
The glands. She cupped it.
And ran the forefinger on the other along its underside, catching the liquid that had run down it, as well as a fresh drop at the tip. She gathered the liquid on her fingertip and put it in her mouth, savoring the salty tang. You must ask for my gifts, gasped the king in pleasure. Each step. And name yourself all the names of a whore slut who pleases the king.
All
Oh,
hyphenated.
Slut who pleases the king.
Celebrian's mind, though clouded, was still cunning. She was a cunning linguist. Word game, she thought. How fun. She rolled
She had
her
a
tongue
cunning
across.
stunt up her sleeve.
Man.
She rolled her tongue across her lips. May Celebrian, who loves the king's cock drippings, touch the king's balls. Shit.
Okay. We have a new best sentence.
Keeps getting
Loves
better.
king's cocks droppings.
Celebrian who loves the king's cock drippings. Oh man.
Oh my god.
Man. This is the
think I know.
story.
I
This
think I
story.
know the name of my death metal band that I'm going to be starting after this.
Tom, you're not allowed to recommend any more stories for a while.
Sorry, I didn't know it was this bad.
See, like this is I was first. I didn't think this was going to be a smut episode. First of all, I just knew Lord of the Rings fanfic, and here I thought, oh, that's a series that I enjoy. I like. It might be enjoyable to see like a kind of silly or weird fanfiction. This, aside from name dropping Elrond and saying that he has a micro penis, this is not once been any Lord of the Rings related. I am disappointed.
Honestly, this destroys everything it touches. So maybe that's a good thing.
Oh, you didn't have any real preconceived notions about joining this this podcast, did you, Ryan? I mean,
Not really. This wasn't in them, for sure. I figured it would just be something barely readable and shitty. Not barely readable and also like with horrendous implications and vivid depictions of an atrophied elf cock. Like a cock that was cursed by God.
oh my God. Speaking of God, I just realized how far we've only come in this.
God.
This is the first
Don't say-
chapter.
Oh my God.
Oh
We're like
man.
Maybe 15% of the way through, if my little cursor is correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It's so much more. This keeps going.
Oh man.
Okay, I'm not gonna scroll too far.
We'll keep reading until about 11 o'clock, and then we'll just call it an evening. Because honestly, I don't know how much more we can take before we just go off the deep end.
My head is starting to hurt from laughing so much. This is getting bad. All right, where was I? Oh yeah. cock
Oh,
drippings.
Christ.
Yes.
The king grunted assent. Celebrain ran a hand along the king's shaft. The full cock filled her small hand. She felt the bumps of warts and moles pass pleasantly beneath her touch.
He has an STD.
Yeah, talk slower. Oh my
Like,
god.
all of them. Her hand reached the mass of tangled, thick hair at the root of the shaft. Her hand continued down the shaft into the hair, slid to the underside of the scrotum. Oh god, now we're gonna get a scrotum.
The
Oh,
sexiest
jeez.
part of the body, the scrotum.
Mm.
The skin of the scrotum was rough and warm.
We're getting a scrotum paragraph.
Something heavy pulled the sack down.
I wonder what it could be.
Her hand followed it down an inch, down 6 inches,
What?
until she found the great stones
What
that
the
stretched the sack so much. I'm fairly certain this king's genitalia is bigger than he is. He's got a wheelbarrow to like cart his own cock and balls around.
It's like that one episode of South Park where everybody is just whose balls are just grazing the ground.
They bounce on like a hippity hop.
Yeah. Oh man.
She gasped at the fill of the king's balls. May Celebrain, elf who touches the king's great stones, hold them in her hands? She asked with a smile.
You're already touching them. Isn't that holding?
My guess is she's like passively sort of like petting them.
She's
Idly
she's
petting them.
idly petting them. Yeah.
She just wants to like scoop them
Passively-
up like coffee beans.
Can you passive aggressively fondle somebody's balls?
I don't know.
I mean, someone can find a way. I'm sure people are creative.
Yeah, more or less.
The
Yeah.
king-
I'm sure the author has thought of a way.
And he's letting us know because he's going to write it out step by step.
Oh my
Who
god.
is this for? I demand to know.
She reached both hands to the great stones, fondled both, and cupped each with a hand. They filled her hands with their hairy, hot mass. The feel of the king's sex, the heft of them compared to the puny mass of her husband's, sent a warmth through her. America's knocking Elrond again.
Jeez.
Poor Elrond. Not even there to defend himself.
Yeah, what was the point? What was the point spread on the size of his balls? She closed. She closed her eyes and purred in pleasure, rocking slightly as she held the king's treasure.
Oh, rhyme.
She grew. Little alliteration there, yeah. She drew closer to the great stones. As she did so, her cheek brushed the king's cock. The smooth head brushed her smooth cheek. Check.
So
no.
much smooth.
Her smooth check. She was writing him a check, apparently. She opened her eyes again and stared along the great shaft of the
Shit.
king's manhood.
That does say check.
I'm going to finish this paragraph and pass this.
Oh, goody.
I don't think I can keep going.
It's not even my birthday.
She saw the gland smooth swell and its cliff fall to the wart-covered shaft. She wondered how she could ever contain such an expanse of flesh in her flesh. But she knew that she would soon try. She wondered what the warts would feel like as her lips, upper and nether, passed over them. Would they give extra pleasure? This she also would. She soon know, she thought with a smile.
Nurse, help!
Am I having a seizure?
Yep. Have this book.
No, you're not seeing things incorrectly. It is in fact written that way.
This she also would she soon know. She thought with a smile.
At least she's smiling while she's having the stroke.
is this like a blood sugar issue? Like, I am very curious in applying some auteur theory to this story.
Oh dear God.
Shut up.
Okay. Okay, it's my turn.
Yes.
Good luck.
Okay. Uh, she dropped one of the king's balls and used both hands to caress the other one. One hand was not enough. Celebrian, who is awed by the king's warty cock, may she fondle the king's ball. I think I need to like go downstairs and apologize to my mother.
Is she awake right now?
I hope not.
Oh my god.
Or just like call her and tell her I love her or something.
I've never been to a confessional, but I feel like I might kill a priest for telling him about this story.
My father, it has been 25 years since I've confessed because I'm not a Catholic, but I read this really fucked up shit on the internet and I just gotta talk about it. And he's like, he's like, I thought I destroyed my hard drive. What the fuck? Who sent you?
What's it, Celebrian?
Was it Elrond?
Okay,
It's Elrond's revenge for being like size shamed.
I think if we've learned anything tonight, it's that Elrond does not have big dick energy. So I don't think he has like the confidence to relay a messenger.
Maybe that was why he was so angry at Mr. Anderson in all the Matrix movies.
Okay. Okay. May she fondle the king's ball. Yes, bitch, the king managed. Okay, managed. Hold it and feel the power that no elf man can possess.
She raised
continued.
it over her head. I have the power!
By the power of Grayskull.
By the
No,
power,
by the power of Greycock.
by the power of Orc
Oh.
Great Cock, yes.
He continued, regaining a little composure, but still tense, with eager anticipation. Didn't he already use the words eager anticipation?
I think just
Like
anticipation, but it was
like
still
a
anticipation.
few-
He was trembling in it.
You know, roughly 8 hours ago when we read that line.
You know, earlier in this chapter.
Yes.
Yeah. This one
Sometime
chapter.
shortly after the end of World War II.
Before time, there was the Great Cock.
And its spirit drifted over the waters.
Did he spread his seed on the wind?
Ugh. Like a dandelion.
Oh.
Anyway.
People should definitely come like that. That is an evolutionary fail. How great would that be?
I feel like there'd be a lot of protests against that at this point.
Anyway.
Okay. What the fuck was that?
She continued her caresses.
She continued her caresses, rubbing her hands over the mass. It must weigh a pound, maybe 2, she thought with pleasure. What great volumes must come from it.
Damn it.
She
Great
left her
expectations.
Volume 1. The left ball. Written by holder of the king's cock. Okay. She left her cheek resting against the king's cock. Felt alternately the glands and the bumpy shaft rub back and forth as her head and body rocked back and forth with her caresses. I think that sentence might actually be a palindrome.
I was about to know.
Yeah, I was about
Those 2 sentences are such.
Yeah.
The king's body jerked under the hold on his balls, and the elf flesh on his cock. Celebrian smiled at the thought that she could please such a brute. "Can the king's ball holder lick his cock?" she asked. "Yes, Celebrian," said the king, reaching out a clawed hand to cup the back of her head. She pulled her head back
Oh, God.
so that she stared directly at the pulsing cock. I'm getting really uncomfortable with the word cock right now. I think half the times in my life that I've said the word cock have been tonight.
I think I've definitely filled the rest of the year's quota.
Yes.
Yeah, same. I
Um,
don't even necessarily know if I want to do another part after this is over.
I don't think so.
I don't think
it's a
so
one-off.
either. This is a one-off.
this is
I feel like this is one we don't need to finish.
This is a,
ever.
this,
Yeah,
this is a
no.
one-night stand.
yes.
Yes, with the Goblin King.
Okay, sorry, I got so distracted by the fantasies of a warty, drippy cock.
How could you not, though? I mean,
Mine grey cock, mine grey cock.
Hat mir ein Light getan. Okay. She pulled her head back so that she stared directly at the pulsing cock. She let the great ball.
It's like fucking
Another Charlie Brown character.
It's like fucking New
She let
Year's
the-
Eve,
she
the
let the-
great ball drop.
Oh God, yes.
the smooth, warty, moly ball.
Smooth and rough. It's a dialectic cock. It's got many internal contradictions.
Shut up! This is not Zizek.
Oh, maybe it's,
Zizek did
maybe
not
it's like
invent,
maybe it's like
uh,
Schrodinger's cock. It's like neither.
Schrodinger's cock. Is Schrodinger's cock going to make a highlight reel? That's a great title.
Oh
So
no!
like, if I heard that, I'd be like, "Where are we going from here?"
Straight to hell.
Straight to hell.
Oh,
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just go right to fucking hell. You are tainted by this horror show.
And not a fun horror show like Rocky Horror. No.
No.
You're
One that
reading.
involves
You're reading and listening to Celebrian.
This is like 120 days of Salo on like endless loop.
this. Yeah.
I feel
okay.
like I need to
Sorry,
I feel like I need to take a shower after we're done tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna use a
shower.
Brillo pad on my skin to get this off of me.
Yikes. Okay. For a moment, she gazed at the massive cock an inch from the tip of her nose. The massive cock. Massive cock, massive cock, massive cock, massive cock. Massive cock, cock. Massive cock, massive cock. It's a fun new road trip song.
So just to be sure, the cock is small, right?
Yeah, it's small and
Elrond's
also
cock is small.
It's massive. The cocks of angry men.
Do you see the goblin's cock?
The cock with raging syphilis.
It is the stroking of a cock that will not idly be again. When the stroking of the cock echoes the dripping of the cum.
Oh dear God.
Speaking of miserable. Purple, the color of her nipples. Okay. Okay. The massive cock an inch from the tip of her nose. The massive cock held like a spear in her own hands, aimed at her mouth. Slowly, so as to savor the moment, she extended her tongue and caught another drop hanging from the tip. She knew she drew the drop into her mouth and then extended again? How do you extend away? Like, okay.
Don't
Beginning-
ask questions.
Oh,
you
no,
don't want
extended
answers
her
to.
tongue.
It's the
Extended
tongue.
her
The tongue.
Oh,
that
okay,
does
for
make
more.
sense.
Okay.
Because who wouldn't want more of that?
Yeah, it's like Lay's potato chips.
You can never have just one.
And I expect a check from Lay's for that brilliant advertising idea.
Lay's
How many
sponsor us.
How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Goblin King cock?
The world may never know. 1, 2, 3.
Slips and breaks back on the pile of pre-cum.
This okay. Spear aimed at her mouth. Extended again. Beginning in the hole at the tip, she darted her tongue in
Whoa!
and licked in
Whoa! Damn!
and licked in a spiral from to tip to the okay. Then licked in a spiral from to tip to the lip of the glands.
From tip to the lip, she sailed on a ship.
The lip of the glands in a slow, wide, languid pass. The cock jerked with pleasure when she rounded the full rim of the bulb, but she held it steady in her two-handed grip. She ran her tongue down the underside where the gland's lip came together.
It's like he's getting so aroused by his own story that he can't type correctly anymore.
Yeah,
It's really hard
Like-
to type with one hand.
okay, you should definitely blow one out before you start writing goblin smut. Like, you just gotta clear your mind, man.
Get into the headspace.
Yeah, not that headspace. So, was she like rimming his piss hole? Like,
No. I think I figured it out.
what?
Oh, really? Dr. Nick,
I'm
please
dying
tell
for
us.
this analysis.
Into, like, I thought. Oh wait, actually no.
As
The
far
next
as I can
sentence
tell,
is really-
she's
no,
jamming her tongue
Yeah,
into the
she's
urethra.
Yes.
sounding that goblin cock. She is sounding it with her tongue.
Yeah, she is.
Oh.
Yep.
Ugh.
Predicted it right, Ryan. There was sounding.
Yes. there
God,
is something.
I've never been so unhappy to be correct.
Oh, man.
Okay, this looks like a good paragraph. With her tongue firmly pinning in the tip of the cock.
Firmly pin it.
Okay. Firmly at the tip of the cock, she stroked her hands up and down the shaft from glands to root. She felt the bump of the warts under her hand, and the pulse and roll of the veins of the shaft. It was good.
And then there was day and night, the first cock.
The
You're breaking up, Will. We're losing you.
Whatever.
We're breaking up, Will.
Whatever, it's fine. The story's almost over anyway. Well, today anyway. And never again.
I don't
Okay.
think it's almost over. We haven't even hit like 20% according to the scroller.
Yeah.
Can we? Are there ways to actually burn internet pages? Like, can we light this on fire afterwards?
How do you delete somebody else's post? That expression was made for this.
Submit it to the FBI and just have them remove it.
Yeah, like, listen, I know
would
you're
we-
real busy right now.
But would we want to share with the FBI that we're reading this right now?
Well, they probably already know.
Do you think?
Yeah, oh, they know. We're probably on a watch list now.
Do you think
Definitely on
holy
a
water would
list.
work on my hard drive?
Just microwave your fucking hard drive after this.
Yeah,
I
probably.
know. On Facebook, I'm gonna start getting ads for like STD treatment. Like,
You're gonna
have
get
Or like
syphilis?
you're gonna
Take
get a,
me.
novelty dildos.
you're gonna get a lot more ads for Lord of the Rings merch.
I'm never gonna be able to watch it again.
It's like,
There's some
Wasn't there a Goblin King in the Hobbit trilogy?
Yeah, there was.
yeah, well, nobody
Yeah.
likes the Hobbit trilogy anyway. So,
Well, now you know what his cock looks like, so have fun with that.
Ah, no.
do you think like when the cock first presented itself, it was like, "Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na"?
I'm sure there was a full orchestra behind him.
Okay. If anyone else wants to take the banner and run,
Okay.
Okay, Nick.
The king felt himself begin to lose control. Music makes you lose control. She was good, almost perfect, but it was too soon. He had to be in control, and music makes you lose control. Sell, started the king, but his voice cracked. He's hitting puberty. He
She's
licked
sucking
his fleshy
puberty
lips
right out of him.
and tried again. Celebrian, do you wish to take my cock into your mouth? She pulled her tongue away and looked up to the owner of the magnificent cock.
Jesus Christ.
Her hands gripped the shaft just below the bulb. Yes, king. Why should I trust my cock to you? Have you ever tasted cock before? Let alone such a fine rod as this.
You should have stuck to glands.
No, she said, a tear welled in her eye.
Oh my god!
Jesus Christ. It's so magnificent it'll make you weep.
Address me properly, cunt. No king with the dick I beg to lick.
New best sentence! New best sentence!
I think we have a new contender for the sentence of the evening.
Oh my god.
She nodded, ashamed at that sentence, and appalled that she had displeased the king and might not taste the great chef Charlie Brown. Beg to take my cock. Convince me of your
Harder.
and I may let you try. Pathetic through your attempt may be, or though may your attempt may be. Oh, thank you, great king with balls of fire.
Goodness gracious.
And I went down on great king with balls of fire. With balls
Oh,
of
man.
fire.
And the cock got longer.
Wait, that wasn't even the.
Yeah, it wasn't- that was
there's
the-
two hyphens here. There's two hyphen statements. Oh, thank you, great king with balls of fire. King whose great rod my mouth yearns
My
for.
Meowth learns.
Meowth?
When did this become a Pokemon fic?
I stroked out in the middle of that sentence. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, did you
I
just
don't
say
blame
meow?
Whose
Meowth.
great rod my mouth yearns for. Go on, silver bitch.
or whose great rod my mouth yearns, actually.
Thy rod and thy staff comfort me.
Now it's going into Simon and Garfunkel. Go on, silver bitch. Go on. High.
Don't you defile Simon and Garfunkel with this.
You may not yet stuff your mouth with my wondrous rod.
Jesus Christ.
If you want to lick paradise.
You may get syphilis.
Want to lick the cum? There's nothing to it.
The
If
cockberries
you
taste
are
like cockberries.
Elrond.
The
Please, my lord, with the rod of steel, please let me pleasure you with my humble mouth. I am not worthy for the least favor from the tip of your cock. Each drop I worship, though it is degraded in my untrained mouth. I beg to learn the true art of pleasure on your great shaft. I shall caress it tenderly with my tongue, work my lips, loving over each bump and twist of your shaft. Embrace it fully in my gorge.
Amen.
Perhaps I shall let you try, said the king.
Is this like the oh god.
Oh, jeez.
The
Well,
cock in vein comes mainly in Celebrain.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Uh,
Oh.
Celebrain opened her mouth wide and bobbed her head at the cock. So all of this is pre-blowjob.
Yes.
The last hour and 45 minutes, all just
As
This
so
is always my least favorite part of a porno.
this is a part we usually fast
This is
forward.
like the 5-minute bullshit plot
Yeah.
devices.
Yeah.
Christ, this is like
Like,
actually
oh no, I
watching.
just broke up with my boyfriend. Oh, that sucks. I'll take care of you.
Here, I'll fix
I'm
your
a
cable
plumber.
for you.
I know that you're going off to college tomorrow.
Except now we
Oh.
except we get an entire, hour-long dissertation on how to fix the cable.
Yeah. Oh.
This would be like a 15-minute like close-up shot on a deformed penis.
More or less. Oh,
Did
jeez.
Andy Warhol make a movie like that?
It was called Blowjob, where he like shows like the image of a face of a guy supposedly getting a blowjob for like 8.5 minutes.
Was
I
it a
think there
good
was-
one?
I think there was another one. It was Taylor Mead's ass. I think it was a 2-hour just still shot of somebody's ass named Taylor Mead.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Taylor needs ass.
Oh man, I can understand the confusion on your face now.
But I thought you said Taylor needs ass, which is like someone a la needing a like loaf of dough. Just an hour-long video of someone doing that on someone's butt.
Like.
I mean, cool.
Oh
And
man.
that's pretty vanilla compared to the shit that we've read tonight.
Yeah, I know, right?
Nick, do you want me to take over and take us home?
I don't want to go home. I don't-
No place feels like home anymore.
Country roads, take us home.
Okay. All right. I'll.
Vagina.
All right. I'll wrap up this shit. All right. The breath from her gaping mouth warmed the bulb of his dick. Oh, not cock, dick? Oh, okay, whatever.
He had to mix it up a little bit now and then.
Bad elf bitch. Bad cunt with tiny breasts and little mouth. I have not given you permission yet. For this transgression you must beg for forgiveness by naming yourself further. Then we will see. Celebrian stared down her nose at the glands. She pulled her head against his grip, straining to take it into her mouth, but the king would not yield. Name herself? Cocksucker? She said tentatively, standing still. Who? Me, Celebrian. I am a cocksucker. Continue. Oh, Jesus Christ. Cocksucker, knoblicker, semen drinker, she said, gaining speed. I am a whore, a bitch who begs the least drop from a cock without parallel. I want to taste the root of your shaft. I want to fill my mouth with your bulb. I am cock worshipper, ball holder, sucker of my king's salty gifts. I wish to drink
Not enough hyphens.
I wish to drink every drop in your cock, feel your great seed in my mouth, spill down my face and onto my unworthy boobs. Jesus Christ, she's still going? I am the cock whore, the ball queen, the seed drinker. The world is my lord, the orc's king's great rod. It fills
I thought he was a goblin.
God.
I guess. Orcs, goblins.
I thought he just wanted a blowjob, not a soliloquy.
I see. I've been envisioning this guy looking sort of like a nasty version of Bowser.
See, so have I. It fills my
Okay,
sight,
cool.
may it fill my body. Very well, cocksucker. Suck cock.
Chuck muck and suck muck.
Oh, jeez.
But that isn't even a command. It's suck cock
I
hyphenated.
know, I was just about to say.
You suck cock.
The king released her hair. Mouth wide, she eagerly bobbed forward and took his entire glance in oral embrace. Her lips wrapped. You look so scared. Her lips wrapped to the lip of the glance. She felt the bulb, big as an apple, fill her mouth. It warmed her mouth and sent more warmth
There it
to
is.
her
We
pussy.
finally compared it to fruit.
It warmed her mouth and sent more warmth to her pussy. She pulled back, passing her lips and tongue over the bulb.
But what about her lavender labia?
We haven't heard about that in a long time.
Yeah, we haven't. And quite frankly, considering the fact that we've just run out of time, I really don't want to find out anymore. We are.
Yeah, that was a
We are
great
not.
sentence to leave that off on.
We are not reading any more of this story for this show.
Oh, if you want to know
Nice.
how it ends, you're on your own.
That is a good decision.
You know how we started this episode where I said hi to Tom and it's because we were friends? Yeah, no. Bye, Tom. Bye.
So-
kind of where that I'm gonna kill you now. Hi.
Oh my God. So, thank
Hey,
you very.
Will, I would like to propose. Could you maybe like draw our pictures by hand for this one?
What?
Can we get like that like the backlit censored face? You know they do with the
Yes,
when
please.
trying to remain anonymous.
Now we need some
You know what?
voice distortion.
You know what? You know what we'll do? We'll put this. I'll make this unlisted so people can only see it if they have a link.
I think that's a phenomenal idea.
That is brilliant.
Really good idea.
So there will. You know what? This will
This will be episode like 6.5 or
Yeah.
something.
So when you guys
Yeah.
explode into popularity and you get a Patreon, this can be like your $10 tier material.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah. This will be episode 6, and then the next one, just for laughs, will be like 6.5 or something. And if people ask where was episode 6, we'll say with just like that one night in New York, we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about episode 6.
We don't talk about episode 6.
We don't
So-
talk about
So, anyway, thank you for joining us for this episode. Until next time, I've been William.
I've been Tom.
I've been really fucking upset.
And I've been disappointed that there was no Lord of the Rings to be had.
No, you know what exactly describes my emotion right now?
What?
Is that edited? You know how someone edited like the angry react into a sad face?
Yeah.
That is me.
All right.
I'm like a frowny face that's like red and orange.
All right. I'm gonna press the stop recording button now. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.